Spartans, this is Miss Saffron, going over human-environment interaction in South Asia. So this is one of the Nearpods that is on the online module, and then I'll quickly summarize the reading. That way you have an idea of what it's talking about as you're reading through and doing the check for understanding questions. And we're not going to watch the videos. I'm just going to talk through what each of the topics are. So this video won't be super long. So the first topic, the Maldives, have an issue of rising sea levels. So if you remember from the last video or from your notes, the Maldives is a group of islands called an archipelago that are super teeny tiny, but they're also sitting below sea level. And as our climate is changing and as our waters are starting to rise, these tiny little islands are being threatened to basically be flooded and disappear. So these islands have more than 1,190 coral islands in its 26 prime atolls. So remember, an atoll is a donut-shaped island that is a former volcano that is submerged. It is the lowest and flattest nation in the world. Their height, their elevation is only 4 feet 11 inches. So for us short people, we are about the same size as the Maldives. And it is the world's smallest Muslim country. So it sits very, very much below sea level and is at threat of flooding. And so that's something that these islands have to deal with, is the fact that as our waters are rising because our climate is changing and the ice caps are melting, that this is a nation that possibly could no longer exist. And so their government is going to have to find a way to solve that problem. The next topic is in South Asia, they have to deal with monsoons. So monsoons are seasonal winds that either come in the summer months or in the winter months. If it's coming in the summer months, it is very, very wet and rainy and floods quite a bit. And you can see the arrows are coming from the ocean, so those winds are picking up the water and dumping it onto the Indian subcontinent. If it's during the winter months, you can see the arrows are coming from the Himalaya mountains. In the winds, because there's not a lot of water to pick up precipitation, it's bringing dry, cold air that sometimes causes a drought in this area. So even though rain is really important for many of the farmers in South Asia, it can also be very, very devastating. In fact, South Asia deals with high amounts of flooding in this area. Another country that deals with a lot of flooding is Bangladesh. They are right on the edge of not only the region, but right at the mouth of a river. So 90% of the country is 33 feet of sea level. So that's not very high elevation. And so again, with our waters rising, plus the monsoons, the country of Bangladesh has to deal with a lot of flooding. Due to low elevation, monsoons and cyclones devastate the country. So cyclones are basically hurricanes that are in the eastern hemisphere side of the world. And so if you are right here along the coast, like Bangladesh is, or even the Maldives, you're not only dealing with monsoon rains, you're dealing with rising seawaters, and you're dealing with cyclones or hurricanes that bring a lot of water into those areas. About 700 rivers and tributaries run through the country. So not only are they right here on the coast, they also have a lot of water running through that country. So they're very, very much prone to flooding. So one of the things that the country of Bangladesh has started doing is putting their schools on boats, like you see in this picture right here. And if you watch the video, you can see that they have solar panels, so that's how they get their electricity. But their classrooms are really, really small, but it's in case flooding happens or occurs, it takes a while for the waters to recede, they can still have education go on as planned. Okay. The next topic is in India, the pollution of the Ganges River. So the Ganges River is their main river that not only has spiritual beliefs behind it, but also their main water resource. So there's a lot, and I mean like thousands upon thousands of people that live along this water. or along this river. And so that is going to cause a lot of pollution in that body of water. So this river is also called the Mother Ganges. It's considered a sacred river to anybody that practices Hinduism. It is 1,569 miles long, flowing from the Himalaya mountains all the way across India into Bangladesh and dumping into the Bay of Bengal. And it is one of the most polluted rivers in the world. So one of the things that the Indian government is going to have to do is try to find a way to clean up the river and prevent pollution from further spreading. And then the last topic on this Nearpod is the country of Bhutan, which is high in the Himalaya mountains, how they protect their environment, and they also use whatever water they can as hydroelectricity. So people that are kind of by themselves in the Himalaya mountains have a way to get electricity. So in the country of Bhutan, it is very specific in their constitution that they protect the environment. So at least 60% of the nation must remain under forest cover at all times, which means that they don't cut down trees, they don't mess with the environment, they try not to build a whole lot. And the country of Bhutan doesn't really have a large population to begin with, so they can put those laws in place. Thimphu is one of just 2 capital cities in Asia that does not have a single traffic light. So even though they do have electricity, it's very minimum because they don't need it. Their population isn't that high, and they're also very strict about protecting their environment. And then elevation and numbers of rivers allows for hydropower. So they really rely on hydroelectricity to get their electricity, especially the rivers that flow through it. All right, so I'm going to go over the reading really quick. So this is the same reading that is on Canvas. So just kind of talking about the population in general in this area. South Asia has India has the second highest population in the world, standing at 1.2 billion people. It is about to pass up China as being the most populated country in the world. So with that, there are some issues because we have cities that have very poor areas that have overcrowding happening. You have pollution of the rivers, pollution of the environment. And so the government of India is having to come up with population policies to stop people from having as many kids. And some of that is just educating people in general, especially women, that you don't have to have large families in order to be successful. Many times, a lot of these families have large families due to farming, but again, the more mouths you have to feed, the less wealth you're going to be able to have. The next topic on this is sustainable development. So sustainable development is using your resources wisely while protecting the environment. And so future generations can have access to those resources. So your country is becoming economically wealthier, but you're also protecting the environment for the future. So using clean energy resources like hydroelectric power, solar power, geothermal energy are all examples of sustainable development. And then the last topic under this reading is climate change. We know that our Earth is heating up. We know our climate is changing, our weather is changing very drastically, and so that is causing our sea levels to rise. That is causing crazy things to happen in our weather systems. And so countries like the Maldives, countries like Sri Lanka, even the Hawaiian Islands, they have to be really careful of the sea levels rising. Countries like the Maldives that don't sit very high above sea level are at the most threat. And there's predictions that that country will no longer exist within the next 50 to 100 years. And so those governments are trying to figure out, should we move the population to another place? Where do we move them to? Should we try to build up higher? There's been even talks about building islands to allow higher elevation. That way the people have somewhere to go, or to protect their current islands by building them up. So there's a lot of talks of what to do, but climate change is causing those talks to happen. And it's something that we can't avoid. It's something that we can only problem solve from here on out. So that is your topics on HEI. I hope that that helped kind of summarize what you're reading about. And as you get ready to maybe take the optional test, or you're just studying this region as a whole, that you're understanding it a little bit better by listening to the explanations and reading through your notes. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email your instructor, and we'll see you later. Thanks, Spartans. Bye.